Across rural America, a quiet crisis is unfolding, far from the spotlight of Wall Street and Washington, but at the very heart of the nation's food supply. From the Great Plains to the Corn Belt, farmers say one critical input is pushing them to the brink, and it is not the weather, it is fertilizer. American farmers are warning that soaring fertilizer prices are driving them out of business, squeezing profit margins that were already razor thin. Many say they are being forced to cut back on the nutrients they apply, plant fewer acres, or in some cases, walk away from fields altogether. In a recent nationwide survey, a large majority of farmers reported they simply cannot afford all the fertilizer they need this season, a shortfall that could ripple through yields and ultimately food prices. What is happening beneath the soil is tied to forces far beyond the farm gate. The war in Iran and the closure of key shipping lanes, including the strategic Strait of Hormuz, have disrupted global flows of energy and fertilizer components. These disruptions helped push the market price of urea, a critical fertilizer ingredient, sharply higher in a matter of weeks, adding yet another layer of cost for American producers. Fuel prices have also climbed, meaning farmers are paying more not only for nutrients, but for every hour they run a tractor or move grain to market. Yet many growers insist this crisis did not begin with the first shot of the Iran war. They point instead to what they describe as a long-running pattern of consolidation in the fertilizer industry, which they say has left a handful of companies with outsized power over prices. Fifth-generation farmer Todd Kimbrell, speaking for many in his community, accuses what he calls fertilizer cartels of monopolizing the market and ratcheting up costs long before the latest conflict. Farms are struggling, he says, and the war has only poured fuel on a fire that was already burning. Producer groups and some lawmakers are now demanding investigations into what they describe as a fertilizer monopoly, calling on regulators to examine whether companies have used their market position to inflate prices beyond what global shocks alone would justify. They argue that when farmers face price spikes this extreme, and when those spikes persist, the consequences reach far beyond the farm, threatening food security and driving inflation for families in cities and suburbs. For many farmers, the math has become brutally simple. Fertilizer, fuel, and other inputs have jumped, while the prices they receive for corn, soybeans, wheat, and other crops have not kept pace. Some are taking on more debt, betting that conditions will improve before the bills come due. Others are selling equipment, downsizing operations, or leaving the business altogether, ending family legacies that stretch back generations. The stakes go far beyond individual balance sheets. When farmers cut back on fertilizer, yields can fall, reducing the supply of grain and meat products that stock supermarket shelves. In a world where demand for food continues to grow, any sustained drop in production can fuel higher prices globally, hitting low-income families hardest. Analysts warn that if fertilizer costs remain elevated, the full impact may not be felt for months or even years, as smaller harvests work their way through complex supply chains. In Washington, the debate is growing louder. Farm state lawmakers are pressing the administration to respond, urging measures that could include antitrust investigations, temporary subsidies, or efforts to diversify fertilizer supply away from conflict zones. The White House, already grappling with inflation and geopolitical turmoil, faces mounting pressure to show that it hears the alarm bells coming from America's heartland. Back on the farm, though, the focus is more immediate. As planting and harvest seasons advance, farmers must decide how much fertilizer they can afford to apply, how much risk they can carry, and whether the numbers still add up for another year in the fields. For some, the decision is a calculation in a ledger. For others, it's a deeply personal choice about whether a family tradition can survive in an era of global shocks and concentrated power. In the end, what happens next in this fertilizer crisis will help determine not only the future of thousands of American farms, but the price and stability of the food on every dinner table.